Good morning. So what to do if you're not losing weight, the scales aren't changing, you're not seeing the results that you want, or you want results to come faster. So the first things first would be, where are you at with your overall intake? How do you know what you're eating? Because we know from research that lots of us overestimate how many calories we burn for exercise and underestimate how many calories that we consume. So there's a big swing there. Even me, if you were to ask me yesterday what I ate, even though I live this stuff, I'd probably forget the odd thing. And if I was going down into the nitty gritty, if I wasn't writing down or tracking, which I don't, but my goals are a bit different at the moment, that extra lick of the spoon of peanut butter, a few times a day, that extra swig of the milk, bad habit, I know. We buy the gold top at home, and it's hard not to. But there you go. I've probably just described to you there about 400 or 500 calories. That could be the difference between me losing a pound or staying the same or even gaining a pound a week. Because remember, there's 3,500 calories in 1 pound of body fat. So whatever diet you do, you need to make sure you're in a deficit. If you've tracked consistently, if you're doing something, whatever you're doing, however you're tracking, whether you're writing it down, whether you're using an app, whatever it is, if you've done that for 3 to 4 weeks, no changes, you've been consistent, like you haven't had like massively swings up or down. If you have, just average your calories out, because whatever that average is would suggest that that number is not a calorie deficit for you, because nothing's changing. Don't forget to consider measurements in this as well. So now we've established it. If nothing's changed, that would mean we're not in a deficit. Now, this could be due to tracking and we're actually consuming more than we think. For example, we're being a bit rough around the edges, and that's okay for most of the time. But if it gets to the point where you're like, it's not working, I really want results, I'd probably weigh out your food for 1 to 2 weeks to experiment, rather than jump on a fad diet. Just experiment whether that makes a difference. And if you do eat bolognese or mixed foods, just for a week, just weigh out how much you have and be consistent with that for then a few weeks after that. Because you gather that data there, it sets you up for a long time. And it also makes you resistant to jump on the next fad diet. More on that in a second. So therefore, now we track the food, we're tracking this a bit more. And if nothing changes again, and we've been like really accurate with it, we could then definitely conclude that potentially, or what it does suggest, is that the calories we're consuming are too much for our energy expenditure. So therefore, we need to either increase our energy expenditure and or decrease our intake. Now, there's 2 ways you can go with this. You could go for a nice steady approach. You could increase your energy expenditure by 250 calories. Morning, Teresa. For example, how are you getting your steps in at the moment? Could you get a short workout in during the day? Whatever it is. Also, you could reduce by 250 calories. If you consider what I just said about the peanut butter, something I talked about yesterday about salads, like wraps are fine, by the way. Make a bit of extra salad for the side. Instead of, something I do in the summer sometimes is, rather than using like balsamic vinegar and olive oil, I'll use balsamic vinegar, then a little bit of feta. So the feta replaces the olive oil. Not that olive oil is bad, I'm just making the most of my calories, because feta is more filling than just oil, right? It's more satisfying. Plus it gives me a little protein, plus it really does make the salad really nice, so I enjoy it more. But little things like that can make quite a difference. It could be switching full fat Greek yogurt to 0%. It could be looking at ways to increase your lean protein. So just make sure the protein you eat is from leaner cuts. That's another option in there. So let's say you do this, you then go again 2 to 4 weeks. And judging by maths, that should over time give you 1 pound of body fat a week. Now, during these moments where you see loads of messages online, it can get confusing. And I'm never going to just start talking about detox, immune detox, fasting, glucose, all that stuff, because I know it's just short term, it's not evidence-based, and it's not actually going to be helpful. And you might go, no, the only way I lose weight is if I cut out all carbs, but not to stop. So that cuts out, like I have to cut out cut out all carbs or nothing changes. And what I want to say to this is that what you've got to consider, when you cut out all carbs, it's not that that's necessarily bad. You're lowering calories. But when you cut out all carbs, you're lowering calories. That's why you'll lose body fat. But you might lose weight short term really quick, which can be quite motivating on the scales, because you store glycogen, aka glucose, carbohydrates, in your muscles. For every gram of carbohydrate, glycogen, you store 4 grams of water. All of a sudden, that adds up, and it's actually a good thing to hydrate your muscles. But what happens is we lower those carbs, the weight starts to drop off, and we go, yes, I'm doing it. We're also probably increasing our protein. We've probably also reduced our fat as well. So you reduce your fat intake as well as your carbs, because let's face it, it's never just the carbs, it's the cakes, which also contain fat, it's the biscuits, which also contain fat. So therefore, it's probably our processed food intake's gone down. So consider that. And actually, you might just need to go lower carb. Doesn't mean zero. So maybe you're like, you know what, I like my jacket potato at lunchtime, go for that. Or I like to be flexible with evening with my kids, like for me, for example. So if I want to have fish fingers when they dinner, I'll have that, but I'll lower my carbs elsewhere. So it's all about being aware of this stuff. Once you're aware of this stuff, you learn what works for you. And I'd rather empower you to do that than jump on something and go, yeah, it's working. Because just like I talked about yesterday, with my 7-year-old's maths homework, the most important part is she knows how to work it out, not that she gets the answer right or wrong. She's going to get the odd one right or wrong, but I'd rather know how to actually work it out than just guess and get one correct answer. And that's what we do so often with diets. So I hope that helps. Any questions, as always, on that, do let me know. And